Chair.
Call Kelvin Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In talking to part one of the Education Amendment Bill, I too would like to talk about the police vetting. I guess we have to ask, why do we have a police vet? And the intent of the Act is to ensure that learners are not exposed to an unacceptable risk by persons the school or early childhood service causes them to come into contact with. And here the New Zealand Teachers Council information provided by them says, for schools, before appointing a person who is not a registered teacher or holder of a limited authority to teach to a position at a school, the board of the school or management of school, in certain cases, must obtain a police vet of the person from the New Zealand Teachers Council. This is going to change so that schools can apply directly to the police, which I think is a sensible move in that it it eliminates the middleman, and schools don't have to actually spend, it'll just speed the whole process up. When I was the principal of Kaitaia Intermediate School, I was lucky enough to have an executive officer who would do that work for me. I would sign the form and she would send it off, and then I'd basically forget about it until maybe a couple of months later. The police vet form would return, and it would say whether or not the person is okay to, doesn't have any convictions, and that'd be good. But so it's really good that this intermediary step has been taken out, and schools can apply directly to the police. I'd like to touch on let people understand, or members understand, some of the difficulties that some schools, especially those in the outlying areas of Taitokero, such as Te Hapu or Mitimiti, Pangaru, Whangaruru, those sorts of schools have when they have to vet for contractors. Part 78CA here talks about the police vetting of contractors and their employees who work at schools. And it says the board of a state school or the management of a school must obtain a police vet of every contractor or the employee of a contractor who has or is likely to have unsupervised access to students at the school during normal school hours. Now, the problem arises when principals and boards in those outlying areas have difficulty getting a contractor. So Te Hapu is an hour and a half, 2 hour drive away from Kaitaia, which is probably where the closest contractors are if they need help with plumbing, or contractors come in and do some painting or some electricity work, and quite often they actually have to get the first person who's available. They might not know them, know who these contractors are, so it's really difficult to get somebody to come up just to do a job that might take a couple of hours or a day or two to come up and to make sure that the contractors or the employees of those contractors are actually police vetted. I've spoken before about my concerns about the police vetting, and I've spoken before about a social worker in a town who wanted to set up a mentoring program, and she selected 100 Māori males who she felt would be excellent mentors and role models for 100 Māori boys at risk in the schools. And she thought, as an afterthought, that she had better do a police vet on these people, a police check, and found that 78 of those 100 people actually had convictions. And where I'm concerned is that when we have cleaners who are contracted in schools, people seem to believe that schools start at 9 and end at 3 and the kids are only there between those hours. Quite often kids stay behind after school for any number of reasons, maybe sports, maybe extra tutoring, maybe just waiting for buses. And people such as cleaners who are contracted after hours may have contact with those kids inadvertently. They may be inside a classroom vacuuming or cleaning or dusting, and kids are in there just doing homework or whatever. And so I have concerns that these cleaners who are contracted may not have had police vetting. You can't tell, Mr. Chair.
Kelvin Davis.
We can't tell by the appearance of people that we employ whether or not they've had a criminal conviction, and it may be that people have been contracted into schools as cleaners who we think are fine, but they haven't had the police vet, and they're not appropriate to actually be working after hours in a school where they may inadvertently have contact with unsupervised contact with kids. So it's just an issue I want to raise, because where I have a dilemma is that on one hand I want the safety of kids to be paramount. On the other hand, I don't like overburdening principals and office staff with things, with paperwork, and police vetting is another one of those things that at present have to be done. And we can work out a way so that the kids are safe and there's a minimum of paperwork, that would make, I think, everybody a lot happier. Just also 78, on part 1, 78cc says further police vets need to be obtained under this part every 3 years, which I think is sensible, in that as a principal, I did have staff members who, in between police vets, did go and have convictions. One was for drink driving, unfortunately, so people's circumstances do change. They do get into fall foul of the law, and I think it's really important that schools do have that mechanism just for continuously, or every 3 years, checking that their staff members do have the vet. But I also just want to say, Mr. Speaker, that I believe that what is paramount is the safety of the kids. Although police vetting does add a little bit of extra paperwork to the role of the principal or the office staff, I think that we do have to realise that the safety of the kids is paramount. I do just also want to touch on another issue that my colleague Trevor Mallard raised in terms of the role of the Board of Trustees, or the function of the Board of Trustees, sorry. Now, the National Administrative Guidelines, of which there are half a dozen or so, one being finance, another property, another health and safety, there's half a dozen of these National Administrative Guidelines. The most important one, I believe, is NAG 1, which is the curriculum. And if we're talking about the functions of the Board of Trustees, the curriculum is the most important function that a Board of Trustees can oversee. I was fortunate enough at Kaitaia Intermediate School to have a Board of Trustees that was interested in our monthly meetings. Their primary interest, and what took up most time in our board meetings, was the curriculum, and in fact even more so than just the curriculum was the achievement of the kids at school. And that was the focus of our Board of Trustees meetings every time, which then had a flow-on effect to myself as the school leader, which had a flow-on effect to the school teachers, which in effect was part of what was instrumental in us raising achievement, this unrelenting focus on achievement on the curriculum. And so the board would call in heads of curriculum areas to board meetings to discuss what was going on in their curriculum area, what their achievement results were, how the board could support them, what resources they needed. And if we're talking about a quality education system, this is what we need to encourage all schools to focus on as the core function. Their core function as the Board of Trustees is to have an unapologetic and unrelenting focus on improving the curriculum, raising achievement, which comes down to the quality of teaching. A number of teachers, unfortunately, still don't realise that teaching and learning are related but separate things. Just because you've taught somebody something doesn't actually mean to say they've learnt it. And when you have a Board of Trustees who focuses unapologetically on raising achievement, that's when you see massive improvements in schools. So I was Just wanted to touch on that point that Trevor Mallard raised